Recently we've had information coming in on the facets of light. From the electricity that seems to extend itself in nature and communicate this way, to potential effects of being in the photon belt. But it's got me thinking. And I thought today we would have a conversation about very physical things like the endocrine system, which are all the glands in our body, to brain waves and how they are relative to bands of light. Just an exploration of thought. Welcome back to Into the Veil. I'm Rachel, and it's a pleasure to have you here as always. So basically speaking, we know about the endocrine system. Medical science has explored this extensively inasmuch as nothing operates correctly if these glands are not healthy. We have the hypothalamus, which is considered the master switchboard telling everybody what their job is and when to do it. The pituitary, thyroid, and the parathyroids, our adrenal gland, even our ovaries, testes, the pancreas, and whether we call it first or last, the pineal body. I kind of find it interesting that they call it the pineal body because it gives me the sense that it's maybe the true master switchboard. Likewise, many studies have been done on brain waves and the effect of brain waves. We have our delta state, which is our sleep state. And then we also have a theta state, which is when we're deeply relaxed, more inwardly focused. The alpha state is extremely relaxed, extremely passive. They now have one called an SMR. SMR is sensor and motor rhythm, which is said to improve our attention and focus. The beta states have been broken into two categories now, beta 1 and beta 2. 1, ironically, is more anxiety dominant, and it pays closer attention to externals. It can be very active. While on the other end of this, we can experience extreme calm and relaxation. The gamma rays are generally required when we are in extreme concentration. But what I find fascinating about this is that they seem to fall in line also with the light spectrum and some of the things that we've discovered in that also. And so we now have scientific evidence that you can create reality using coherent brainwave patterns and using them in proper function. With recent research, there's a transcendental state of joy when the mind is activated with light. It produces a very strong signal to the body, but the signal doesn't appear to be chemical. The signal, in fact, is electrical, piezoelectrical, in fact. The area of the brain that lights up every single time when this happens is the pineal gland, the little radio receiver in the back of your brain. In the geometric center of the human brain is a tiny cone-shaped gland the size of a pea. It's said to weigh less than 0.2 grams. This is what is known as the pineal gland, and it lies between the left and the right hemispheres of the brain. It's also physically responsible for producing and secreting the vitally important hormone known as melatonin in the body. Melatonin works with what we know to be circadian rhythm, biometrics. But there's also another substantial function, possibly, of this gland. Ancient cultures and traditions have revered the pineal gland for being key to unlocking our universal connection and our divine nature. And with this being electrically sent out, monitored, it seems to be very connected also with our DNA. So the question is, could there be any legitimacy behind the metaphysical and ancient beliefs? And if so, are there ways to consciously activate this gland for spiritual connection? As an integral part of the endocrine system, the pineal gland is a tiny organ with a long history. The name pineal comes from the Latin word pinea, meaning pine cone, due to the pineal gland's conical shape, and the gland is often associated with higher states of consciousness. French philosopher René Descartes called the pineal gland the seat of the soul, and believed it was the place in which all thoughts were formed. In Indian Hinduism, the chakra energy system correlates to the glands of the endocrine system in the body. Subsequently, the third eye, or the Ajna chakra, corresponds to the pineal gland, which Hindus believe can serve as a gateway to becoming clairvoyant, enlightened. Simultaneously, in the same tradition, a closed third eye brings confusion, cynicism, jealousy, envy, one-sidedness, and uncertainty. This sixth chakra plugs into the pineal gland. This gland has photoreceptors on it. And yet, while we are just discovering these things with today's technology, they seem to know this thousands of years ago, before they even knew what photoreceptors were. And while many might negate ancient belief systems or other cultural beliefs, I do find it of value that so many had the exact same understandings. References to the pineal gland can also be found in ancient Egyptian carvings and artifacts. Egyptian symbols of the Eye of Horus and the Eye of Ra both closely resemble the pineal gland and where it resides in the brain. This is what called a sagittal section of the brain, a side view. And there are very striking resemblances between the limbic brain and the Eye of Horus. But more importantly, it represents some type of inner vision. The pineal gland has been called the third eye because once it's stimulated and activated to the next level, it gives us profound inner vision. For most of modern history, the pineal gland has been shrouded in mystery. It wasn't until 1958 that scientists discovered that the pineal gland was responsible for producing and releasing melatonin. The hormone is derived from serotonin, and it does help to regulate our circadian rhythms, which are in sync in 24-hour cycles with the Earth's rotation on her axis. When we're exposed to light, it stimulates that pineal gland, and serotonin kicks in to help us be active and aware. But when we're in the dark, that's when melatonin production kicks in, triggering maybe a sleepy or restful state. And in this state, we may experience inner visions, dreams, and so on. While serotonin and melatonin are both critical to the function of our bodies, it's speculated that there might be another somewhat mysterious chemical component that the pineal gland also secretes, called DMT, also known as dimethyltryptamine. But this is still really to be determined. It's been called a spirit molecule. The theory is that when it's released by the pineal gland, that it can give us elevated states. Maybe DMT is a lens of our pineal gland, allowing us to see wider areas of reality than might be normally accessible to our senses. DMT is a psychoactive compound that's found in the human body, as well as in animals and at least 60 species of plants. It is also the main chemical component of the psychoactive ceremonial drink ayahuasca. Ayahuasca is a beverage made from 2 plants, at least one of which contains dimethyltryptamine. These are essential shamanic practices, and ayahuasca is at the center of that traditional mind-body kind of medicine. In 2013, Professor Jimo Borgening and her team discovered the presence of DMT in the pineal glands of rats, leading them to hypothesize that the pineal gland might synthesize DMT. However, more recent studies have found that the 2 enzymes need to biosynthesize. Needed to biosynthesize DMT were not only found in the pineal gland of rats, but in other parts of the brain as well. When DMT is isolated from its source, it's considered highly illegal in most countries worldwide, because when taken this way, the effects are nothing short of mystical, with users reporting similar experiences of encountering strange entities traveling outside of time and space. One of the things that's unique about DMT is that it seems to get into a state where there is an intelligence. So I do believe that it would probably have to be used with great caution and discernment, or an ability to discern whether these intelligence forms are operating out of higher frequencies, lower frequencies, and I think that would be determined much by the evolvement of the individual using them as well. One of the things that's unique about DMT is that it seems to get one into a state where there is intelligence and intelligent communication. So there's been a lot of speculation as to what that might be. Could it be good? Could it be bad? Extra dimensional? Or might it just be an activation of certain areas of the brain? Scientists are currently unsure of the role of DMT in the body, but a theory popularized by Dr. Strassman is that the pineal gland releases DMT in large amounts while dreaming and when we die, accounting for the mystical near-death experiences that some people report. This hypothesis found some support in 2018 when researchers found that after inducing cardiac arrest in rats, DMT levels in the brains of 60% of them rose more than 2-fold. Interestingly enough, many of these accounts are almost identical in what individuals experience when allowed to give those same reportings. As if finding DMT in the pineal gland wasn't mysterious enough, another recent discovery was quite baffling. In 2002, scientists made the exciting discovery that calcite microcrystals exist on the pineal gland, and that these crystals can interact with electromagnetic fields. A thought that kind of came to me in this was the idea that many birds, especially, say, homing pigeons, other migratory species, use the Earth's magnetic field to locate and know their paths. Researchers now believe that magnetic fields are primarily thought to act on pineal gland. And it gave me the sense that if our pineal gland was free and clear to operate without calcification, without interference, that may be the same part of who we are in our own species, if you will, to know our path. And that some of the attempts to calcify the pineal gland could potentially be other ways to disconnect us from that sense of inner knowing. We are mammalian. We are given many attributes that other species have. These crystals have piezoelectric properties with excitability in the frequency range of mobile telecommunications. They have theorized that the interactions of these crystals with global system for mobile telecommunication waves could constitute a new mechanism of transduction to the pineal membrane. What this means in layman's terms is that our pineal gland is essentially a cell phone, a wireless transmitter that links us up with universal consciousness. Dr. Joe Dispenza is teaching people how to activate the pineal gland in order to recapture the spiritual connection that he believes is everyone's inherent right to access. There are many practices, many things that are said to offer that activation. One would be breath work. If you were to take one slow, steady breath, and as you slowly follow your breath in, you can track those intrinsic muscles, allowing it to be traced all the way up to that pineal gland. And you hold that breath, and you keep your attention on the pineal gland. That's your target. Now remember, this lies in connection with your third eye, so in that center part of your brain. The act of contracting those muscles, along with holding your breath, would begin to push cerebrospinal fluid right up into your brain. Biological fact. And as you begin to hold that breath, you're pushing that fluid right up against the crystals of the pineal gland. And then the mechanical stress begins to electrically activate those crystals. And we are turning on the radio receiver in the brain. There are other techniques that people claim can activate the pineal gland for spiritual awakening. In addition, a 2013 study at the University of Melbourne found that Wi-Fi signals interfere with the function of the pineal gland to produce melatonin. So experts suggest shutting it off before going to bed. And in speaking of inhibitors, another inhibitor is fluoride, which we know for decades fluoride treatments have been given even in school, and that have been added to our waters with the point and purpose of reducing tooth decay. There are also many things that are questionable at the moment. Food colorings, preservatives. The use of these is up over 500% in the last 50 years, causing cancers, allergies, and more. ADHD in children sometimes. Not everyone is reacting the same way to these, but most food dyes are petroleum-based and are often used in candies for little ones, particularly popsicles, icings, but even pickles and salad dressings. They're just in everything. So, if there's the potential of bringing a more whole food diet in, it can greatly help the health of the pineal gland. Some have said that sun gazing 15 minutes at sunrise, 15 minutes at sunset, tremendously activates light and the functionality of the pineal gland. Meditation, breath work, even a drop of iodine in 8 ounces of water or more is considered to be beneficial to decalcifying the pineal gland. This gland starts out large when we're children, and it may explain why so many children see so much. But over time, and generally by the time we're 18 years old, it's so calcified that it's almost inaccessible. Ormus is another thing that's considered to be beneficial to this, in that it bridges the left and right side of the brain where the pineal gland lies. Some have used crystals. Amethyst or any dark purple, violet, or indigo colored stone is said to be beneficial. And it can be placed right on the third eye or the brow chakra. Magnets can be placed at the upper part of the brow during waking hours, which will also create an alkalinity in the body that we need. Preferably we use these in the daytime, as it works with the natural frequency and light of the sun. But most of all, this takes dedication, time, effort, and conviction. My hope is that they will continue to use our science and technology to further discover how the pineal or even the glandular system works. But I thought today would be a good day to bring you a little information on something that is seldom spoken of unless you have a sleep disorder. Most of the time, brainwaves are not something discussed at the doctor's office, and most of the time the pineal gland isn't really a conversation unless it specifically involves sleep patterns. So food for thought for the day. I thank you for joining us. If you have questions or comments, of course, please leave them, and I will look forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.